Welcome to AlexGs Aquarium, everybody. Today we're going to be talking about making a top and a filter sock tray for the 265-gallon sump, which is the first stage sump in this tank. And I want to just quickly go over why I'm doing that, and it really comes down to part of my humidity mitigation plan. By having covers on these tanks, I can help to lessen the humidity in the space just a little bit. Might not be a lot, but the protein skimmer here is going to have an immense amount of water flow coming out of it, along with a lot of splashing and bubbles popping in the filter tray area and the outbound part of this as well. And I know that will generate salt spray and humidity in the room through evaporation, and I just want to try and mitigate that. If I have covers on there and it allows the humidity to build up into a really heavy concentration, it'll condense into liquid water again and drip back into the system harmlessly. And that's okay. I don't have a problem with that. So I've gone ahead and laid out the top. I have one cover cut already, which is just a rear piece. It was a basic rectangle. But now I have a more difficult task of cutting out the cover for this tank, and I have to go around the protein skimmer, which means I need to do another big circle cut. And you guys have been watching my channel for a while. I've done quite a few different circle cuts, obviously. I had to make all the rings on my protein skimmer. The overflows for the tanks are all circle cut, so I'll be doing the same thing for this, and then also to accommodate all of my filter socks that I eventually put into here as well. Let's go ahead, go into the garage now, get this all squared away, cut this circle out, hopefully it fits, and then we'll talk about getting the rest of these parts cut out and get that completed. We're in the garage now. I have the main rectangular top cut out here for the 265-gallon tank, at least the portion of it that's remaining. But I needed to lay out exactly where the protein skimmer was going to be. Now, there's a number of varieties of ways that you could do this. I'm sure there are some that are far better than what I chose to do here. But I decided to first cut out this whole top, and then once the top was cut out, I wanted to try and find the rough center of where the middle of the protein skimmer is and its diameter at the point where the top intersects it. Now, if I had things like a little laser level and a little stand for it, I could have probably figured these things out pretty easily, just like I could measure lines between things. But I don't have one of those and had to work with what I got. Therefore, I took this rectangular top down into the basement, and I started to do a little bit of sliding the top on just as it would go up to the point of where it hits an object. In this case, it hit the protein skimmer right here in the center first, which told me when I slide the top on, that's where it's going to approximately be. Since the skimmer is pretty square in there, I went ahead and just took a 90-degree line, or I took a straight line all the way through, and said that is going to be the center line of the protein skimmer. I then went ahead and put this up on edge and slid it into an area where it would go up against the protein skimmer, and came up with this line going across. Where the tube cross is the center of the protein skimmer, roughly. And I say roughly because there is always a chance this is going to be off a bit. That's okay though. We're not trying to make this like a super tight fit. I just want to have it on there and cover most of it. I still want to allow airflow to take place down there. I did, however, take one measurement between the one top that I got completed on this side of the 265-gallon. I put a level on it and basically slid it across until it hit the side of the protein skimmer, which told me the distance it is from the edge of the protein skimmer to the edge of the other top that I put on here, which was just over 16 inches if I recall. From this point here to this point here is the radius of the circle that I'm going to be cutting here. I'm going to go ahead now, set up the router. I am going to go past this a little bit. I'm going to measure from the end of the bit to the center, which it means that the radius is going to have 3/8 of an inch added to it, which will allow me to have a little play around the skimmer. which is okay. Like I said, I don't want this to be a perfect fit, but it needs to be a good fit, because if I mess this up, I'm going to have to buy another sheet or try to assemble this with scrap, which is just going to be difficult. I'm going to go ahead and get this set up now, and I'll show you guys the cutting process. Alright, I have my circle cutter on the router set up. If you haven't seen it before, it is real basic. That's screwed to the bottom plate of my plunge router, and essentially all I do to measure my circle diameter is I either go from the inside or the outside of the router bit to a center point here. In this case, it was 12 inches from the center of where my circle needs to be to its radius. I went ahead and just went to the inside of the bit. The bit's a 3/8 inch bit, and I'm going to allow it to make the circle another 3/8 of an inch in radius. That way the whole circle will be cut out a little bit bigger, and that way it'll give me a little bit of maneuverability and room around this, so that even if it's not in the perfect center, it can still be adjusted without having to try and cut this over again. Alright, gone ahead and put a couple extra support boards under this so that it holds up a little bit better while it's getting cut. Now I'm going to go ahead and get it plugged in and start the cutting process here. Angle the camera down for you guys a little bit. The final piece of safety stuff, always wear ear protection with this. It's going to get really loud. Always have your safety glasses on. You don't want to get injured doing something that's supposed to be fun for your tank, or any kind of project for that matter. Well, there you have it. One giant circle cut out. Now, nice and clean, didn't have much in the way of problem. I did 2 passes on it. The first one I took out about, I want to say about 2/3 of the material's thickness, and then the final pass I went ahead and went through all the way. And you notice I went at the very end, I slowed down a lot, because once you cut through all the way, the router is then attached to this piece, which can shuffle around, and you don't want to accidentally gouge out your piece you're trying to keep. Back down in the fish room here, I got the top down here. Now we're going to find out if this fits. Only one way to do that though, I have to turn the main return pump off, because I have to remove all this plumbing. It's not glued in, so I can just pull it out, which is fine. I'm going to go ahead and do that now, and then we'll go ahead, put this top on, and just see if it preliminary has a good fit. If it does, we'll move on to the next step, which is going to be making cutouts to accommodate the return plumbing here for the 150 tank, and also in here for the filter sock drain, and also the drain line that feeds the protein skimmer. Let's go ahead and get this started. Alright, I can't take it anymore. It's been a slow, tiny drain of the last amount of water out of this for like 15-20 minutes. I can't wait any longer. It's too much. Let's see if this top fits. Alright, so despite water draining slowly onto this, which I can't really do anything about, but it won't hurt anything, the top fits, which is good. Exactly what I wanted. Now we need to figure out though, how are we going to lay out the rest of the top for this 265 to accommodate, obviously, my filter sock drain plumbing here, which is also dripping some lovely water. My return for my 150 refugium tank, and of course the line that goes and feeds the protein skimmer. I don't think I'm going to have any problems getting these lines in. I'm not too concerned if they're not perfect, because what I'm planning to do here is, like I said, I'm going to probably make cuts along this and make some little overlaps between them so that I can pull individual covers off. I don't want it to be one giant cover and go, Well, I have to take the cover off today, so let's shut everything down so I can remove plumbing to do it. We don't want to do that, so I'll probably have a couple of covers in this section over here to accommodate the different plumbing that's going in, and then have another cover over here so that I can just get general access in on this side as well, and then probably a cover that can be pulled off here. There's a possibility that I might need to cut another access hole here as well for the protein skimmer, depending on how high the outlet of it is going to be. I haven't decided that yet, because until I get salt in this tank and I can actually start running it and seeing how high the foam generation is in this tank, I really don't want to push it any further than I have to right now. So we're going to keep that open. It can always be changed, be something that'll be relatively easy to do. I'm going to go ahead, let this drain off a little bit more, and get it marked up so that I can go ahead and put all of these pumps and stuff back in line and get the tank up and running here hopefully in the next hour or so. Once I have this cover done, then I'm going to move on to making my filter sock tray. Alright, we're back at the 265. I have now finished the cuts that I wanted to do on this. And more or less what I did is I took that one giant piece and I cut it into three. There's one section back here, which is right here. I just cut it along the center lines actually on both sides, and then I cut out a notch for the 150 gallon. Took another panel here. And the final one was probably the most difficult one of these, just because I had to kind of figure out what was going to be the best way to do access, was this one back here. Now it just slides on there like that. Now, I will say, I have more lines that have to come in and out of here. I have electrical for the pump to drive the protein skimmer. I also have the air draw for the protein skimmer that needs to come out of here. So I'm going to leave these open for now. The final piece that I need to get done here, I need to build a custom tray to hold filter socks. Now, I have a huge space in here. I know they make giant ones in all different sizes, but I'm going to stick with just the small. This is the 4-inch opening on this one. I'm going to stick with that just because it's simple. They're readily available, and they may or may not get used all the time in here. But I want to have a tray of them so that for me, it's optional. The first thing that we have to do for the filter sock tray is get the major pieces of it cut. Now, I went ahead and I cut two 1-inch strips here for what's going to be the outside perimeter on the top, so that it'll kind of force the water to go into the filter socks instead of being able to overflow on the side of the tray. So this is going to be important. I cut two of them, and I should have more than enough here to get it all assembled when we're ready. I need to cut a piece that's 6-inch by 26 inches long, which I have a 6-inch wide piece here that I'm just going to cut downstairs on my chop saw. So I'll get that done. Then I have to get the hole placement figured out. But the other thing I have to accommodate for as well is I'm going to need some kind of legs for this to get held up. And I think I'm going to go with another 6-inch piece. So I'm going to have to cut more than what I have right here. So I now have two 6-inch strips here that I need to cut one down to 26 inches. Go ahead and do that. Be right back, and then we'll get the holes drilled in this. I got to figure out the placement of those as well. Alright, I got my 6 by 26 inch cut for the tray that's going to be used for filter socks. I also went ahead and just kind of held it up down there and used a pencil to kind of mark about where I thought each one of these should go. I've gotten them all marked up, but some of the marks here, of course, are ones that weren't centered or I decided I didn't like. I'm going to go ahead and get the hole saw out here and drill these out. To do that, I'm just using a drill with a 4-inch hole saw, and that fits this pretty well. It's not a super fit. We're not looking for like super machine precision here. You got to be able to take the tray and put socks into it and take them out for the filter socks. I'm going to go ahead, get this prepared, and then more or less this tray is going to kind of be done. I just have to cut some feet for it and then glue it all together with PVC glue. Let's go ahead and start drilling holes up. Well, that first filter sock is in now, and we should be good to kind of pull these out, put them back. I got a little bit of a sanding job to do here. There's a little bit of a edge of plastic on here, but that'll be easy to take off. You go ahead and get these other 3 drilled real quick, and then this part will be complete. Alright, there you have it. 1 filter sock tray almost ready. But all I gotta do is buy some filter socks. It's been a couple of days now. I've had the tops onto the 265 gallon sump. Went ahead, did those extra cuts, and got 4 pieces of, actually about a 5 top sump, soon to be 7 top sump. I did this, of course, to try and keep all of the humidity and moisture that I can into the tanks. But I also was working on my filter sock tray. So let's go ahead and take a peek down below and see what's going on here. I got a couple little pieces here that are just covers over the side, just so that the slots on the end here are covered up for now with the water running. And I don't know how well you guys can see this, but just on one of these alone, it's really covered up pretty good in water. So the cover is doing what it's supposed to. Here it is, filter sock tray. Now the last thing when I really showed you guys was just cutting out the circles in here, and you know, the filter socks fit inside. I just have one right now, and I haven't filled out any other parts of the tray yet. I'm kind of looking at this and going, well, as things kind of fill up, or as I kind of work with the system and get it running, I'll either put additional filter socks in here, or filter floss across the top. Not quite sure yet what it's going to be. I don't intend to have these running all the time if I can help it. So that's the filter sock tray here. I didn't show the gluing process of it, I apologize for that. But really it was a pretty basic build. Once I cut out the circles here for the filter socks to fit in, all I did was I measured approximately the height that I wanted it, cut everything out, and I used PVC glue to use this. This PVC sheet, of course, I've used it with my protein skimmer, my DIY overflows. It's a pretty robust material. The only drawback to it is that it's buoyant. So the cement blocks that I have holding down my protein skimmer, I made a couple little feet that go outward, and I just have those sitting on top of this. So if I take it off, it'll actually float. But it's fairly stable, and it's working good. And the tops are made out of the same PVC sheet material as well. So it's a really robust material, I think. It's a PVC. You can use PVC glue, which makes it easy to work with. Let's talk a little bit more about what's going on down here real quick. The protein skimmer pump is in here, and I have hooked it up. I had to do a little modification on the impeller, but I'm still going to do more testing on it. Wait till we get some salt water in here. But I do promise once we get the salt water into the tank, and I can test it a little bit more and be sure that it's working good, I'm going to make a DIY video on how to construct that impeller. You'll also notice there's a couple of cables going on over here. One's for the protein skimmer pump, which is not yet hooked up. The other one here is my temperature controller probe wire for the Rango controller that controls the heating system. And I'm happy to say that I have engaged the heating system and tried it out on the 1600 gallon system. I'm not going to tell you guys how the heating system performed though. That's going to be next week's topic of discussion for Heating with Fire Part 3. That's going to be next week's main topic. It's talking about the heating system and how it's functioning, because I want to test it for a little while, see how it runs. I will say one thing that I have observed though with protein skimmer is that the water level is right about here, which is probably about 3 to 4 inches above the water line of the sump itself. This is okay. This is something I wanted. I still have roughly maybe 18 inches or so of vertical height to get to the base of the neck of the skimmer. Again though, until I get salt water in here and I can test it, I won't be able to determine if this is too much space or if there is not enough space and this is going to cause a problem for me. Either way though, it'll happen with more testing. The 720 gallon tank, I'll say really quickly, is doing okay at the moment. The bracing is still not showing any signs of bowing or flexing, but I'm going to reserve myself from saying whether or not it's good for a little while longer. That's all I had for this week's video. Just want to say again, thanks for everybody for watching. Of course, if you have comments or questions on the 1600 gallon system, please feel free to leave them down below. I really enjoy interacting with the community and talking to everyone and answering their questions on the system. I know I've gotten some really good feedback and good ideas out of those comments. I really do appreciate it. And of course, if you like today's video, go ahead and give me that thumbs up. Let me know that you like the video. And if you don't like the video, go ahead and give it a dislike too. That's okay. And of course, thanks again for watching, everybody, and I'll see you on the next video.